Alabama coaching legend Nick Saban has announced his retirement yesterday afternoon. It came as a huge surprise to a lot of people, but it wasn't too much of a surprise if you knew where to look and what to look for. We'll talk about that next on the ProZone. Welcome to the ProZone. I'm Matt Roberts. So, Nick Saban announced his retirement. Coaching legend, 17 years as the head coach for the University of Alabama. 6 national championships. That's huge. And for Nick Saban to suddenly retire, it was surprising to a lot of people. But if you pay attention to the signs and what Saban was saying, I'm not saying this is why he was retiring, but I have a pretty good idea that this is why he was retiring. College football is changing. It's no longer an amateur league anymore. The future of it is not good in the grand scheme of things. And the first thing you got to look at is transfer portal. Now, transferring, that's normal. That happens, okay? Transfer portal has been in effect since 2018. Enter your name on a database. As long as you're academically and athletically qualified, then you can transfer to another school, and as long as you meet one of the 5 requirements. I discuss all of this in detail in episode 1, so check that out. So that's been something that's been common. The problem is that this year, with the injunction filed and the lawsuit against the NCAA said, okay, instead of a one-time transfer, everybody can just transfer as many times as they want this year. Because with the injunction, if we stop everybody from football from transferring, that's going to affect every other sport, especially the ones in the spring. So let's just let everybody transfer. And everybody transferred. So you had 1,983 kids transfer, Division I players transfer. 1,983 entered the portal. They didn't all transfer, they just entered the portal. And that's 7% of every single Division I athlete. 7% have all entered the transfer portal. Now, not all of them are going to get a deal. Not all of them are going to get picked up. And when you enter the portal, as I said before in my previous episode, you resign your scholarship. So if you resign your scholarship, then you have to hope that the team takes you back and gives you your scholarship if you don't get picked up off the portal. But there's no guarantee of that. So the portal made it very challenging. On top of that, after Alabama lost the national championship to Michigan, 7 players from Alabama entered the portal. 7. Now, is that why they entered the portal? Is it because they lost? Well, for some cases it might be. Oh, we lost. Woe was me. I'm going to leave. I want to go to a winner. Could be other reasons as well. I mean, I looked at the list, looked at one of the players. It was a transfer. It was a redshirt quarterback, a sophomore, redshirt sophomore quarterback. Does it mean anything? Is he a starter? No. But the thing is when you're a college coach, and I don't have a horse in this race, okay? So I'm on both sides. I've been a Division I athlete. I've played Division I ball. I've been through the recruiting process. I've heard the games that coaches play. I've had all the niceties thrown in my way and all the platitudes. Fine. I've also dealt with athletes and helped them get into college, Division I and other levels, for over 20 years. I've also dealt with college coaches and worked with them in that capacity and dealt with them and talked to them about stuff. So I've been doing this, and I'm right in the middle on the whole thing. I have my both sides that I'm playing, and I have my interests on both sides. But when you're a coach, taking the coach's perspective, and you're you're recruiting a kid, you're looking at those kids at 10 years old sometimes in youth football, sometimes, most of the time, 13, 14, and these coaches will be offering those kids at 13 or 14 years old, which I don't agree with. It's just a cool offer. It doesn't mean anything. It's a platitude. It's a coach saying, remember us? So when it comes down the road, if you flourish into something in high school, they can say, remember us? We offered you back when you were 13 years old before anybody else did. Kind of like the first judge turning their chair on The Voice. Now, I was the first one to turn the chair, so pick me and be on my team. That's kind of what the early offers are. They don't mean anything. They carry absolutely no weight, and the NCAA says to me number of times, the NCAA legal said, we do not recognize verbal commitments. But the coaches are working with those kids. They're trying to recruit them. So for whether it be 5 years, 4 years, 2 years, they're spending a lot of time, money, resources. They're traveling to see the kids. They're sending them, little packages and putting together literature for them. They're bringing them out to their campuses for unofficial visits or for official visits. And they're doing this for a long time, and they're putting a lot of effort into recruiting these kids. That's a lot of work. And then those kids come in, and the coaches expect some loyalty. You sign a deal, you sign a scholarship with a school, and you're there. Now, the scholarship's only good for a year. It could be a 4-year. We'll give you a 4-year offer, but every year you have to meet athletic and academic requirements to qualify. So once you meet those requirements, then they can re-extend your scholarship. So if your grades aren't good enough or you're not playing well enough up to their standard, they can pull your scholarship from you. Are they likely to do so? No, but they could. And they have until July to make that decision. July 1st, I believe it is. So your coaches put a lot of effort into the kids, and they want that commitment from those kids. Well, now you have kids who are just going to leave after a year. So okay, you've been here for a year or for 2 years, and we spent time and money training you, developing you, planning things around you, getting you groomed into the system. And then the kids are up and gone. Now, from the players' side, the players will say, well, the coaches will just replace him anyway if there's a problem. They'll just bring someone else in. Yeah, that's the point. Because every kid that's coming out of high school is a project or a prospect. There is no guarantee that the kid's going to be great. Some kids flourish, other kids fold. I've seen it countless times. A kid goes to college, they're kings in high school. And then they go to college and they're a mess. They don't succeed well. I had a kid one time I was working with who was being offered by Stanford, Wisconsin, and I believe Rutgers was talking to him. Just 3 of the many. And the Wisconsin, he ended up going to Wisconsin. And then he did poorly at Wisconsin. Couldn't make it off the bench, really. He came in on some garbage time and did terrible. So he kept getting pushed down the roster, and they brought in other kids. Just in case he did not pan out, they brought in other kids. That's how it's done. That's just business. That's just covering your rear end to make sure that your future of your team is set up, because kids will come and go. So I understand it from the kid's perspective, but I understand it from the coach's perspective. Right? Yes, kids have the right to move and go to another school, but at the same point, when you're making it after a year and you're just saying, I'm out of here, and they make it very easy now. Transfer portal has made this incredibly easy for kids to transfer. I mean, if you look at the restrictions, which I cover in episode 1, the qualifications, you have to meet like 1 of 5. And the first one is easy. It's just qualify. Just go meet academic and athletic requirements. Oh, okay. I'm done. And if you don't have a scholarship, right, that's another option. If you don't have a scholarship, you can transfer whenever you want to, which is not a problem because you're not under contract with the team. But when you sign a scholarship, you are under contract with that team. So I can see where, as a coach, you'd get a little bent over the fact that all the time I'm spending grooming these kids and then they're just going to all leave. And you had 7 of them decide to enter the portal for Saban. Now, it's 7 out of many, but still that's 7. And that's quite a bit right after a loss. But there's more to it than that. Transfer portal is just one. Then you have name, image, and likeness. Now, name, image, and likeness, what that does is basically, I'm going to have a whole nother episode that we're going to cover that in depth, probably several parts, because it's really in detail. I mean, there's a lot to unpack on NIL. It's a hot mess. Basically, it's pay for play, and I'll get into it a little bit here. So when an athlete gets NIL money, what you have are NIL collectives that work with a program, but not necessarily are part of the program, because legally they can't be, because a program can't pay you, but their NIL collective can. Like, for example, there's this one NIL collective here. Where is it? It is called, let me find it. Here it is. The Classic City Collective. Now, the very bottom of their website, classiccitycollective.com, they say Classic City Collective is a separate entity from the University of Georgia. But they're raising the money to provide no money for University of Georgia athletes. But it's separate from the University of Georgia. They have to say that because legally they can't be. Because if you're a college and you're actually paying for the nil, you're in violation of NCAA regulations, which are pay for play. You can't pay athletes to come to your school, right? Well, what's a collective? A collective is basically you're looking at alumni, you're looking at friends of the program, sponsors, donors, businesses who kind of pool together their resources and money and say, we're going to work together to make sure that we pay these athletes good nil offers so they will come and play for University of Georgia. They're doing it on their own as independent fundraisers. That's the hook. So basically you are doing pay for play. Now there are different schools right here in this article. There are several schools that have no collectives. Oklahoma has one, Penn State, Rutgers. Irish United is another no collective that's being created by Notre Dame. These are all separate from the schools, quote unquote, but they're paying kids to go to the school. So basically the rules for football, the amateurism rules are out the window. You have kids making 6-7 figures based off of whatever these no collectives want to pay them. I mean, there's just one no collective that's called SA-NIL or SANIL. It's 27 different schools. 27 different schools, a lot of them like 1AA schools, but 27 different schools that are pooling their money together in a massive collective to pay athletes to go to those schools. It's basically an agency for nil money, for the most part. And people say, well, that's not going to affect the kids. But yes, it is. The minute you introduce money to a kid, I'm not saying it's all kids, but the minute you introduce money to a kid and you give them 6 figures, 7 figures, they're going to think that they're better than they actually are. I'm paid for this because I must be good at it. You're paid for it because you're a name and the businesses want to pay you to use your image. It's not that you're good, it's just you're recognizable, they think. And if you don't flourish, they're going to take that money away. Whole different aspect. You don't even know what's in the contracts. And the NCAA can't legislate, can't restrict those contracts. They can't even review them. I spoke with them at length back in March. And NCAA Legal was saying, yeah, we can't even look at the contracts. So they can have terms in those contracts. If a kid gets hurt, we take all your money away. They can do whatever they want because it's not affiliated with the NCAA and not under their jurisdiction. All the NCAA did when NIL was voted on was they said, we're going to give guidelines. Here's some guidelines for doing NIL and taking NIL money. But NIL wasn't created by the NCAA. That's a misconception that I see floating around on X. NIL was created by California legislation. Legislators in California voted for that. Other states have voted for it. I think there are 31 of the 50 states all have NIL legislation which allow athletes to take NIL money. The rest of them don't. And I'm sure that's increased since then. And two of the most thorough, believe it or not, two of the most thorough NIL legislations that were passed really were New Jersey and California. I'll go through all that separately. That's a whole different can of worms that I have to unpack. But politicians created NIL. And the transfer portal, the situation we're in now, was created because of who? Politicians. 7 state attorneys general sued the NCAA for violations of the Fair Trade Act. So they're not allowing they're saying that they're not allowing the athletes to pursue their careers when they really don't have careers, so to speak. So it's all politicians that are doing this, that have put this all together. And in my experience, whenever you're dealing with politicians, they don't do it for the kindness of their heart. They do it because they want something. Whether it's, hey, I look really good. Look at me posing with the kids. I'm helping them out, so I look good there. Or it's, I'm getting this kid a lot of no money. Let me try to get them to donate to my campaign. Or I could use this kid and pay them no money to campaign for me, if that's even legal. I got to look at the rules and see if they can even be used for campaigning for a politician. Or I can say, hey, you know what? I want to go to one of these no collectives in, let's say, Georgia. I'm not saying they're doing this. I'm saying they could do this. Let's go to this no collective and say, hey, you know what? I can make it really easy for you. We can kind of brush a few things under the rug for your tax reasons or any kind of problems you run into legally. I can help you with that, but you got to make it worth my while. I don't be surprised. Every time a politician gets involved, there's a different objective in there. There's an ulterior motive in it. So now you have nil and you have the transfer portal. And you have athletes getting paid for nil. And some will say, well, those kids aren't using nil against the teams. They aren't? Okay, I'll give you a case in point. Saw it on X during the whole transfer portal nightmare. I don't have the actual details of it. I saved it. I'll find it later. I just thought about it now. But the fact of the matter is there's a kid who was going to be transferred, who is making $500,000 in nil money. He said, I'm going to enter the transfer portal if I don't make $1 million in no money. Hey, threaten the school with that. So he wants to double his money, or he's going to transfer. Well, the school doesn't control the money, but the collective does. So all you do is go to the collective, and the collective, they say, all right, look, you guys, can you do something? Here's the word. This kid wants to leave. And the collective says, oh, we'll take care of it. We'll take care of it. And then they work with the kid to make sure the kid doesn't transfer. And now I believe the kid didn't transfer. So apparently he got something. And I have to look more into that. When I look more into it and find out about it, I'll let you guys know. But that's what happened with the no collective. It can be used as a negotiation tactic with schools in conjunction with the transfer portal. And if you think it's already happened once, as far as I'm aware, the precedent's been set. If you think it's not going to happen again, you're wrong. It's becoming business now. Now, if you're a coach like Nick Saban, you've been coaching for 17 years. You're dedicating your time to amateurism. That's your market, being a college coach. I'm most certain that he has been approached by owners of NFL teams to be, or general managers to be a coach. I'm most certain of that. And he never took that opportunity. He never became a head coach. Like Harbaugh's done it. Others have done it. But he stayed in college as a college coach. Why? Maybe he didn't want to take the big chair at the NFL. Maybe he doesn't like the whole crap that goes with it. All the contracts and politics and egos and drama that comes with the NFL. Maybe he loves the amateurism, that passion. You see, college level sports has always had this specific passion. It's why everyone loved it. It wasn't corrupted. It was pure. It was kids who just want to play the sport, man. And the chances of going to the NFL, you look at the numbers from the NCAA, the chances of going to the NFL right here, the chances to move from Division I football or the NCAA football to the pros is 1.8%. That means that 98.2% of all players in college are not going to go pro. 98.2%. Only 1.8% go to the pros and get drafted. That's it. I mean, that's not even just drafted. That's just going to pro. So there are only 254 draft picks. There are 78,712 NCAA participants in football. 16,380 of them are eligible for the draft, and only 254 of them are actually draft picks. That's 1.9%. That's it. 1.6%. I'm sorry, 1.6%. 1.6. I read it wrong. 1.6%. So 98.4% are not going to the NFL. Well, that's a problem. What does that tell me? That tells me that the vast majority of the kids in college are just there to play, but they all want to go to the show, but they're not going to make it to the show. And that's what kept college sports pure. It allowed the athletes to have this passion and amateurism. They're playing not for dollars. They're playing for glory. They're playing for the pride of the game. They're not playing for money or exposure. They're playing just because they love to play. That's what it's all about. And with this introduction of nil money and all the other things that come with it, you're causing the colleges to become basically semi-pro ball, paid institutions. Example. So that's where we stand. We have 98.4% of all college athletes are playing just to play. They're not going to go to the pros. They're trying to go there, but they're not going to make it. So there's an amateurism. There's a passion. There's a fire to it. The spirit of it. Where the alumni are there and the student body is there and it's rocking and the fans are there and it's really amazing. College sports at that level. It's amazing to play at that level because it's amateurism and it's pure. Now you're corrupting that with money. Kids are doing it for the money. Not all of them, but I guarantee a damn hell a lot of them are going to do it for the money. They want to get paid. They want big dollars. They want to, and the thing is they're being paid for potential with nil money. I don't begrudge a person making money. Okay, rock and roll. But they're being paid off of potential. You're a high school athlete. In high school, you might be a god in high school. But the percentages of kids that go to college, specifically Division I, in football, are incredibly low. The numbers from the NCAA, 7.3% of all high school football players nationwide go to the NCAA at some level, but only 2.9% go Division I. That's it. Just about 3% go Division I. That's it. 2.9%. That means that of all the players in high school, you're better than 98.1% or 97.1% of all the kids in high school. You're better than 97.1% of them. But that also means that you are dominating over 97.1% of the kids who aren't good enough to play at a collegiate Division I level. So you're basically the best of the worst, so to speak. I mean, of the 7.3% that go to college, 92.7% of those kids are not going to go to college at all. So you're better than 92.7% of those kids. That's not saying a whole hell of a lot. You're dominating in a field of kids that aren't really great. I'm not putting down any kids from high school. But let's be real, the percentages speak for themselves. But when you get to college, you're among a bunch of others who are just as good, if not better than you. And you're always being replaced with somebody else. So when you get your nil money, you're getting paid off of potential of what you might do. It's like what Michael Jordan said years ago in an interview. He said when he was coming up, him, Larry Bird, Magic Johnson, those players, they weren't paid right away. They made their big money as they succeeded based on their performance.
Michael Jordan, the Magic Johnsons, Larry Bird, Charles Barkley's, we earned what we got. When the corporate America came to us, we had a game that could validate their admiration and
sponsorship and all that, yeah.
Now they get that before they play one game.
Yeah.
So you're rolling the dice to see if this kid's ever going to be good or not.
Yeah.
So in essence, you're paying the kid off of potential.
Yeah.
That he may be great.
You don't think that's good?
No, because I think it sets bad work ethic. When you get something so easily, you're not going to work as hard.
Then you have players who are getting 5-year lucrative deals and they're being paid on potential. That's what no money is. You're being paid on potential, recognizability. And it's what the businesses are choosing to do. And that's fine. Let them do it. If the businesses want to pay you, if the no collectors want to collect that money, that's well and good. However, it is pay for play. You're getting paid to play for a team. And they're basically buying you and convincing you to play for their team. So when you're a coach like Saban, and you see pay for play, and you see no money, which is that, and you're seeing transfer portal, coupled with all the other changes. I mean, like here's an example. He had an article. This is an article from on3.com, written on December 29th. Okay, what, 10 days ago? Maybe 10 days ago? Here's this quote from Nick Saban. Quote, "We're moving in the sort of semi-pro direction in terms of there's pay for play now. We call it name, image, and likeness, but that's pay for play, basically. And I'm all for the players sharing in what's happening. You got guys transferring from one team to the next at will, with very little guidelines as to how to control any of these things. And we're going to have a playoff very similar to the NFL. And I'm not saying any of these things are bad. I'm just saying that they're all completely changes from what we had 5 years ago, 10 years ago, whatever." Now, I read that, and then when he retired, I went, well, that makes sense. Because now what you have is a change of the business structure of the NCAA. Football has changed tremendously, and don't think basketball won't be following suit. I mean, there's a legislation that's being proposed out in California, another one where the NIL started, called CAPA, the College Athlete Protection Act, to give large payments to college players based off of earnings from the teams and from the schools. The NCAA is trying to adjust fire now. What they're saying is, they're trying to propose a new conference down the pipe. They have the FBS Division I, FCS Division I AA, but now they're trying to propose another one. Whether it's going to replace FBS or just be in addition to it, I'm not sure. It's still just kind of in the idea phase, in the proposal phase, but they haven't gotten details. But the general proposal of it is they're looking at trying to get the big dollar teams all together in their own conference. And then they're going to pay those players $30,000 a year to play for those teams. I guess in addition to scholarship money, I guess. Plus they want the schools themselves to be responsible for paying the NIL money. So no longer no collectives separate from the schools. Now you're basically trying to legalize pay for play in the schools. Well, now you've made it into a business. Now it's semi-pro ball. If they go that way, which it seems likely they're going to go that way, it's semi-pro ball. But with that comes contracts, and with that comes labor disputes, and comes insurance and other issues. And don't be surprised, will the players unionize? They're going to be convinced to unionize. And believe me, the politicians are going to want you to unionize as athletes. Why? Because then they can take money out of your paycheck via union dues, and those unions can take that union money and donate it to the politicians. Trust me, that's how it works, and that's what is coming down the pipe. College sports is pretty much dead. It's going to be changed irrevocably in the near future. I mean, it's past the precipice. So between the transfer portal, NIL, the potentially suggested new conference, and the playoff system, which is basically a 12-game system, all the different bowl games, Cotton Bowl, Sugar Bowl, Orange Bowl, they're all being used as locations for different rounds of playoffs. You have, qualifying round, semifinal round, quarterfinal round, finals. You have all those rounds. And championship is at probably the Rose Bowl or wherever and rotating. That's basically what it's becoming. So NCAA is semi-pro. It's going to be. And that playoff change is coming. 24-25 season, that's the first year of it. I'll go through that in another episode. We'll discuss that in detail. But that's what's going to be. So if I'm Nick Saban, a career coach who loves amateurism, loves that spirit of it, why would I want to stay if I didn't want to be a pro coach anyway? Because now you're basically making me become a pro coach. And that's not what I love. That's not my passion. Well, some will say, well, you can pay millions of dollars. It's the least you can do is get the kids money. He's not getting the kids money. The rules conference has to decide. The teams have to decide on that. But he's paid because of the work he does. He's successful. He's a coach who's been coaching for 17 years. He's coaching longer than most of the kids who are now going to college. They're entering college at 17. He's been coaching as long as they've been alive, and in some cases before that. He's earned his money with wins and a track record. Just like NFL teams, NFL players earn their money. But the NFL players have contracts, and they have to adhere to those contracts. NCAA players have a contract. You have a scholarship. You have to adhere to that scholarship. But with the transfer portal rules, that kind of puts that out the window, and it changes everything. So your NCAA is changing, and it does not surprise me that Nick Saban, old school coach, who's been doing it for a long time, would want to retire. Doesn't surprise me. And don't be surprised if other coaches who are old school coaches want to follow suit. Some people just may not like the whole concept. And as it gets bigger and bigger and more like a business, they might just say, the hell with it, I can't do this anymore. This is not what I love. This is not my passion. We're not developing kids anymore. Now we're negotiating with clients. And that's what's coming down the pike. I hope it's not the case, but I have a strong feeling that that's where we're going. And Nick Saban saw the writing on the wall. Is that why he retired? I don't know. Is it a good reason why he retired? Probably. It's a safe bet to think that it had something to do with it. So that pretty much sums it up. I hope you learned something today. Thank you very much for watching. I'm Matt Roberts. Know your goal. Hey guys, thank you for watching the ProZone. Make sure you check back for more episodes. And if you haven't done so already, like, share, subscribe, and ring the notification bell so you don't miss what we have coming up next.